A little girl had the whimsical idea of shoving her half-eaten popsicle into the mouth of an injured horse. When she pulled it out, only the stick remained, so she quickly tore open another one, took a bite, and stuck it in again. Sure enough, this one was devoured in a single gulp too. The girl smiled at the two sticks in her hand, then planted them in the ground as a symbol of her pure friendship with the horse. As more and more wooden sticks accumulated in the dirt, the wheels of fate began to turn. In the days that followed, the girl stayed by the side of this wounded stallion, but at that moment she had no idea just how high her love and dreams would help both the horse and her family soar. Little Kyle was born on an abandoned horse farm. Under her grandfather's influence, she had an unusual love for horses. So whenever her father went to work at the track, Kyle would stand in front of his car, blocking his way. She wouldn't say a word, just looked at him with those pitiful eyes. What father could resist that kind of look?
All right, get in. I don't want to be late.
The filly that Kyle's father Cohen trained was named Sonia. Kyle fell in love with her at first sight and always shared her favorite candy with the horse. Today there happened to be a race. As usual, Cohen checked the horse's legs before the start. But today he noticed that Sonia's right front leg felt warm, and she kept kicking restlessly. He suggested to his boss that they should use a different racehorse for the competition, but to show off in front of the Middle Eastern prince, the boss insisted that Sonia race. Despite Cohen's protests that this could ruin a champion thoroughbred that had already won 2 major titles, the money-hungry boss didn't care.
Look, she's a nice horse, but I've spent millions of dollars developing a stable of horses for Prince Tariq so they can beat his brother. Now, I know you got big plans, but just do your job, okay?
As the starting bell rang, the racehorses burst forward. Sonia didn't disappoint, quickly racing from 4th place all the way to 1st. Kyle watched intently, cheering her on. But the next second, disaster struck. The smile froze on Kyle's face as she scrambled through the fence rails, rushing toward the horse with concern. The worst fears came true. Sonia's right front leg was fractured. Everyone knew that a horse with a broken leg was as good as dead. But what the boss did next was even more heartless. Even though Sonia had once been worth $750,000, even though she had won many races for him, the boss callously ordered the vet to put her down. This completely enraged Cohen.
You don't care about anybody, do you? Horses or people?
Just like that, Cohen and 2 other trainers were fired on the spot. He immediately demanded his back pay of $9,000, but the heartless boss would only pay $6,000. Looking at the horse writhing in pain on the ground, Cohen couldn't bear it and made a decision that would change Sonia's fate.
I'll take the 6,000 and the horse.
The boss readily agreed. After all, just disposing of the carcass would cost more than $3,000. Kyle watched all this with worry. Cohen ignored the boss's mockery, and that very night hauled Sonia back home. This horse farm, abandoned for over 10 years, finally welcomed a real racehorse. Hearing the commotion, Grandpa came over to check, but when he learned they planned to treat a horse with a broken leg, he shook his head and walked away. You could tell there was a deep rift between father and son. Still, Cohen gathered the courage to ask for his father's help, because his father had once successfully treated an old horse with a compound fracture. Kyle also looked at Grandpa hopefully, but was still ruthlessly refused.
He was an old lead pony. Healed just enough to walk around for a few more years before I finally put him down.
The next day, Cohen refused to give up. He even split his meager $6,000 between the 2 trainers who had been fired because of him. They were puzzled what was the point of saving a horse that could never race again. That's when Grandpa walked in and asked, "Do you know whose bloodline Sonia comes from?" It turned out Cohen's decision to save Sonia wasn't just impulse or kindness, it was the gamble of a lifetime. Sonia was a descendant of the legendary racehorse Dreamer, who had won 7 consecutive races and earned over $3 million in prize money. If they could heal Sonia and breed her, a good foal could sell for as much as $300,000. This prospect suddenly filled everyone with motivation and brought father and son together for the first time in years. Working as a team, they hoisted Sonia up to let her leg heal. Kyle was overjoyed. She thought about Sonia all day long. Every day after school, she would rush eagerly to the stable and lean against the fence, quietly admiring this horse of her dreams. To get a better view, Kyle brought over a bucket to stand on, but she didn't realize the gate wasn't closed. She accidentally fell to the ground, startling the horse into a fit of neighing. Her father rushed over when he heard the noise. After confirming that both his daughter and the horse were fine, he couldn't help scolding her.
What were you doing? She's not a pet, Kale. She's what I do for work now, so you're gonna have to leave her be, all right?
You could tell this father and daughter weren't usually very close. Kyle had no choice but to turn and leave. Sonia watched the dejected Kyle as if apologizing. But late that night, worried Kyle couldn't help herself and quietly climbed out her window, jumped from the second floor onto a hay pile, grabbed 2 of her favorite ice cream bars from the freezer, and ran to the stable. They stared at each other through the gap in the fence, and so the scene of sharing ice cream unfolded. The father, sleeping in the stable, obviously knew what was happening but didn't stop this friendship from blooming. Since Cohen stayed home every day caring for Sonia, he also had more time to spend with his daughter. He pointed to the vast pasture in front of them and said, "All of that used to belong to our family. When Grandpa was young, he raised several mares as good as Sonia, but to make a living, all the foals that were born had to be sold."
She wanted to keep the yearlings and race them.
Well, it got kind of hard. Watching horses born on this farm go on win big races for somebody else.
And now Dad, also trying to make a living, had sold off these pastures until almost nothing was left. This was the source of the rift between father and grandfather. Watching her father's lonely figure, Kyle finally understood that Dad had once been a young man with dreams too. After a month of careful nursing, Sonia was finally able to stand. Cohen quickly called in a vet to examine her and found that Sonia had recovered well. Now they could consider finding her a suitable Prince Charming. This news delighted everyone who had worked so hard. So Cohen immediately went to a friend's place, planning to find a purebred stallion. Kyle, who followed along, was wide-eyed with excitement because every horse there had been a champion on the racetrack. She could name each one by heart. Then their friend showed the father and daughter the premium stallion he had prepared. Kyle looked incredulous. Could this little thing really do the job? But Cohen knew his friend was just joking. The real champion was about to make his entrance. He was tall and powerful, with swift movements and strong muscles hidden beneath his chestnut coat, simply flawless. However, what their friend said next hit Cohen like a ton of bricks. The stud fee was $15,000, and that was already half price. Cohen didn't have that kind of money, so he proposed using future foals as payment. The friend was in a tough spot since he was just an employee himself. In the end, father and daughter returned home disappointed. That evening, Grandpa continued his usual routine of telling Kyle stories about his early racing days. Afterward, he had Kyle bring a coffee can to Cohen. When Cohen opened it, he was astonished to find $20,000 in cash inside. Cohen immediately confronted his father. "You watched me sell off the pasture piece by piece until there was nothing left. So why are you helping me now?" Cohen didn't want to accept such charity.
Picking up that filly was the gutsiest thing I've seen you do in years.
Oh, don't talk to me about guts. I took the biggest swing I could and I struck out.
And you gave up?
I broke, Pop!
Because you're a horseman.
Oh, no.
Are you gonna spend your life shoveling horse squat for shakes? Or are you gonna get back in the game?
Cohen was struck speechless, but he also warned his father not to tell Kyle any more horse stories and promised to pay back the money once they sold the foal. But now he was trapped with no way out. Adding to his troubles, his former boss was sabotaging him, making it impossible for Cohen to find work. With no other options, he had to sell the family's last piece of land to cover expenses. But before their current problems were solved, they faced a new blow. Just as they were happily preparing for breeding, the vet brought terrible news. It turned out the heartless boss had Sonia spayed long ago to make her run faster. This sudden devastating news completely crushed everyone's hopes. Only Kyle hugged Sonia, apologizing over and over. When Cohen got home, his emotions gradually boiled over. He couldn't help complaining to his wife that this horse had ruined everything. But his wife said, "Ever since Sonia arrived, we've actually felt more like a real family. If you'd spend more time with your daughter, I'd even work 7 days a week at the restaurant to help support us. I know your father disappointed you once, but that doesn't mean you have to disappoint your daughter too."
You're wrong. Truth is, Kale hadn't have been with me that night. I'd have left that horse on the track. I'd let him put the horse down, and I'd still have my job.
Kyle heard every word of this conversation from outside the door. She ran back to her room heartbroken, and no amount of her mother's knocking could get her to come out. Kyle was afraid Sonia would be abandoned again, so she stuffed her backpack full of Sonia's favorite candy and escaped through the window. But just as she climbed onto the horse's back, preparing to run away together, her father suddenly burst through the door, startling the horse into a wild gallop. The terrified father immediately jumped in his car to chase them. Don't underestimate Sonia just because she had recently recovered. She ran faster and faster, unknowingly reaching speeds of over 40 miles per hour. Cohen tried to reach out and catch his daughter, but it was too difficult and dangerous. He had to accelerate and get ahead, then raise both hands to signal Kyle to jump off. Fortunately, he caught her safely. During the tumble, Cohen held his daughter tightly, afraid she might get hurt. Meanwhile, Sonia continued galloping along the fence. When they got home, the trainer who had caught up with the horse told Cohen that Sonia had just reached speeds of over 45 miles per hour and was getting faster. This was the level of many first-class racehorses. Cohen couldn't believe it and quickly called the vet to examine her. They found that not only had Sonia's leg injury healed perfectly, but with training, she might be able to return to racing. So they went to the track for testing, but this time Sonia's performance was disappointing. Her fastest lap time was only 37.2 seconds.
She looks big.
Big as in strong?
No, big as in fat.
That's mean. That's mean. You shouldn't say that.
Well, she's been eating too many popsicles.
What?
You didn't know I knew about that, did you?
Soon Grandpa joined in timing the laps, and so 3 generations came together again, because of one horse. To help Sonia regain her form, Grandpa suggested entering her in a race for some excitement. Cohen had been thinking the same thing. This was the first time father and son had agreed on something in years. 2 weeks later, Sonia entered a small competition. Everyone was initially worried about her leg, while Kyle cheered excitedly for her. Through constant chasing and overtaking, Sonia finished the race in 3rd place and won $1,100 in prize money. Kyle high-fived her mother in celebration, but the father and 2 trainers looked disappointed because this performance wasn't ideal. Just then, an employee asked Cohen to sign a sales form. It turned out he had posted a price before the race, $15,000 to buy Sonia. Unexpectedly, someone was actually foolish enough to buy a horse with a previously broken leg. This completely shattered Kyle's heart. She crouched in front of the empty stable, tears streaming down her face. It seemed Cohen had become exactly what he once hated most. Kyle accused her father of being a liar.
You lied to me. You said I'd always have Sonia Dory stood right there and said it. Raced her and she got claimed.
Well, welcome to the world of horse racing, Kale, where everything doesn't end up the way you want it to.
She wasn't for sale.
Every racehorse everywhere in the world right now is for sale. Get that.
She wasn't just some racehorse. She was our horse.
Cohen was speechless. He finally realized how he was no different from the father he had once resented. That day, Kyle's mother couldn't attend the parent-teacher conference because of overtime work, so the unemployed father went instead. The teacher had parents take turns reading their children's essays aloud. Soon it was Cohen's turn, though he seemed distracted. In her essay, Kyle had written, "Once upon a time there was a noble king who had rich lands and countless horses. But a dark night gradually eroded everything away. However, this king was a warrior who found the legendary divine horse. The divine horse carried him over countless obstacles and dangers, ultimately defeating the dark night and reclaiming his land." As he read, Cohen suddenly choked up and couldn't continue. He realized he was the king in Kyle's story. The land represented family, the dark night was the barriers between family members, and the divine horse was Sonia. When he got home, he sincerely apologized to Kyle, and she finally forgave her father. Yes, isn't this kind of communication exactly what was missing between adults and children? The next morning, Grandpa said someone had delivered a goat for Kyle. She curiously went outside to check. When she opened the trailer, inside was Sonia, the horse she had been thinking about constantly. It turned out her father had used Grandpa's $20,000 savings to buy her back. Not only that, Cohen transferred 51% ownership of Sonia to Kyle. Of course, the 2 trainers also got shares. Now Kyle was Sonia's new owner, taking another big step forward on her path to chasing dreams. To get Sonia back to peak condition, Kyle started getting up at 4 a.m. every day. First, she forced herself to drink a bitter cup of coffee for energy, then rushed to the track to train Sonia. But the training results always seemed to fall just short, so she went to her dad for help.
I want you to help me. I want you to help me train her.
see. Well, you'd be getting a trainer.
Sonia's presence not only eliminated the barriers between father and daughter, but the whole family could now enjoy meals together happily. Suddenly, Kyle stood up and announced that Sonia would compete in the Riders' Cup on October 29th. The whole family's eyes widened. That was a top-tier event with prize money of $14 million. For this, Kyle had specifically found the best jockey, the trainer Manny. It turned out that young Manny had also loved horse racing. Once he had finally achieved his dream of participating in an official race, but just as he was about to cross the finish line, his left foot accidentally slipped out of the stirrup and he fell. He was trampled by 3 horses behind him, breaking 4 ribs, and had to retire from racing. Although Manny had never achieved great success in horse racing, out of love for the sport, he became a trainer. He often dreamed of galloping across the racetrack again. Kyle didn't want him to give up his dreams, so she gave him this opportunity. Everyone applauded Kyle's ambitious spirit, but Cohen didn't hold much hope in his heart. No mare had ever won the Riders' Cup, let alone Sonia with her broken leg history. He honestly told his wife this was just their daughter's pipe dream.
Remember dreams, Ben? This one's Kale's. Help her live it.
I want to, though. I do. I'm just saying that this isn't gonna happen, that's all, honey.
So what? So what? Just let it take her as far as it can.
All right.
In the days that followed, Kyle would take Sonia for laps every day. All 3 generations worked together. Through day after day of training and bonding, Cohen finally reconciled completely with his father. Soon came the day of the horse racing preliminaries. When the judges called Kyle's name,
I'm Kale Crane.
Why don't you stand up?
she calmly explained Sonia's advantages, ignoring the boss's attempts to embarrass her. Due to her excellent past record, the judges said her horse had a good chance of qualifying. That evening, Cohen did something unprecedented. He picked up his wife from work. The family harmony had made him much more romantic. Then he found his daughter, who was inseparable from Sonia. Actually, Kyle could tell that Dad didn't have much confidence in Sonia, but she was full of hope. When they announced the qualifying list the next day, Sonia's name wasn't among the first 12, making both Kyle and her father nervous.
And our last 2 runners are Point Twice and Sonia Dor.
Cohen couldn't believe it. His daughter had actually succeeded. Also selected was the horse the boss had trained for the Middle Eastern Prince. But while some rejoiced, others worried. The Middle Eastern Second Prince's horse didn't qualify. He had hoped to beat his brother just once through this race, but now it seemed completely hopeless. However, to ensure the Middle Eastern Prince's horse would win the championship, the boss shamelessly approached them. He condescendingly offered $20,000 to buy Sonia. After being refused, he doubled it to $40,000. But Cohen said Sonia no longer belonged to him, and Kyle firmly refused again. The boss thought for a moment and directly pulled out a $100,000 check, promising that Cohen and the 2 trainers could return to work at his stable. Faced with such generous terms, everyone was tempted because this money could change their current financial difficulties. Kyle took the check, turned to look at Sonia, then at her father. Her father said if it were just him, he would definitely tell the boss to take his money and get lost. But now it concerned everyone's interests. Seeing her father's hesitation, Kyle finally made her decision.
He's running the big Colt Goliath boy in the Classic.
That's right. Goliath Boy's a favorite. And when he wins a cup, it'll be my 5th horse of the year.
Do you think Goliath boy remembers what Sonia's butt looks like?
Why?
Because it's all it's going to be seeing of her on race day.
Perhaps only innocent children dare to fearlessly say no to capital. They had won their dignity, but the $120,000 entry fee posed a new problem. No one was foolish enough to invest in a horse with a broken leg history. Just as Kyle was about to give up, Dad had a brilliant idea. He took his daughter to the Middle Eastern Second Prince's estate, but the prince wasn't stupid either. Faced with the father and daughter's request, he asked just one question.
Kale, you look me in the eye and you tell me you think your horse has a chance of beating my brother's horse.
My horse will beat every horse that shows up.
And so they left the prince's estate, having successfully obtained the $120,000 sponsorship fee. The night before the race, Cohen gave his wife a brand new sun hat and awkwardly invited his father to attend the race together. After all, on such an important day, the whole family should be there together. Jockey Manny had also made thorough preparations. But as the head of the household, Cohen's heart was still filled with anxiety and fear. But Kyle told him something.
She's ready to run. You saved her life. She's just returning the favor. She's here to run for you.
Just then, the boss arrived with his horse, Bad Boy. The moment Bad Boy saw Sonia, he reared up on his hind legs in challenge. Sonia fearlessly responded in the same way. The scene became somewhat chaotic. After finally separating the two horses, Cohen noticed that Sonia's right front leg was getting warm again. He quickly had his assistant lead her back to the stable. Cohen's emotions completely spiraled out of control as he complained angrily about his bad luck. Then the trainer told him that Sonia refused to be led back. Cohen came out puzzled to check. Sonia's eyes seemed to tell him, "Don't take me home. I can run. I can definitely win this race." Yes, a racehorse that can't chase dreams might as well be put down. Even though her odds were 80-1, Cohen pulled out his entire savings of $258 and firmly chose Sonia amid everyone's laughter. Because Sonia was family and supporting family needs no reason. As the starting bell rang, 14 top racehorses surged forward together. The injured jockey and the once broken-legged horse were enjoying the premier track. Although they were left far behind by the pack at first, Sonia's condition improved as she ran. Just as she was about to overtake the boss's Bad Boy Manny, like countless times in his dreams, once again lost his footing in the stirrup. Kyle was extremely nervous watching from the sidelines. Fortunately, at the critical moment, Manny used his experience to steady himself. However, they had fallen back to last place. But for Sonia, this race was just beginning. The wide track gave her room to accelerate as she ran freely on the racetrack. Kyle in the stands shouted encouragement excitedly. Perhaps feeling the strength of her family's support, Sonia surged forward, overtaking one strong opponent after another. She carried Kyle's dreams forward without stopping.
Come on, Sonia, take it. Take it. Now get it, baby.
In the end, Sonia won the race by half a length, and everyone cheered with excitement. Grandpa's long-dormant dreams, Dad's frustrated dreams, and the daughter's supposedly impossible dreams, like a miracle, they all came true that day. Because dreams never abandon their owners, only owners abandon their dreams. So when you run with all your might, the earth trembles, the sky splits open, and ordinary people step aside, and you will finally see the end of that glorious road and claim your champion's wreath. This is what it means to chase dreams at full gallop.